This is an emergency biological and extradimensional advisory. We ask that you immediately proceed to a well-lit area and observe your shadow. For your entire life, you have trusted it. It has been your silent, loyal companion, a perfect, two-dimensional projection of your three-dimensional form. This trust is now a vulnerability. We have identified a parasitic life form that violates this fundamental law of physics. We call it a planar symbiote. It is a being from a two-dimensional universe that has found a way to cross the dimensional barrier. It cannot survive in our three-dimensional world, but it has discovered it can anchor itself to the one place where our world intersects with its own, our shadows. The first symptom is subtle. A flicker of movement in your peripheral vision, a momentary distortion. You will dismiss it, but it is the first sign that your shadow is no longer just a shadow. It has become a host, and you are the anchor that binds it to this reality. The second stage is behavioral divergence. The distortions will become more pronounced and undeniable. When you raise your hand, your shadow's hand will lag a fraction of a second behind. When you turn your head, its head will turn a moment too late. This is not an optical illusion. The planar symbiote is learning to control its new vessel. It is fighting your movements, asserting its own will over the two-dimensional form. This creates a control lag, a visible struggle between your actions and the shadow's reactions. The horror of this stage is the realization that the link between you and your shadow is breaking. It is no longer a perfect reflection. It is a puppet, and you are slowly losing control of the strings. It is a silent, two-dimensional rebellion against the three-dimensional master, and it is happening right at your feet. Stage 3 is morphological transformation. Once the symbiote has established a degree of control, it will begin to alter the shadow's shape. The changes will be small at first. The fingers of the shadow may appear slightly longer and sharper than your own. The silhouette's posture may be more hunched, more predatory. It is reshaping its vessel to a form that is more comfortable, more natural to its own alien biology. It is overriding your human shape with its own terrifying signature. The most common reported transformation is the appearance of a single, large, eye-like shape in the center of the shadow's head. Even though you are facing away, it is creating a sensory organ, learning to perceive our world from its two-dimensional prison. Your shadow is not just disobeying you anymore. It is becoming something else entirely. It is becoming a monster that wears your shape. The symbiote is a parasitic twin, but not in a biological sense. It is a consciousness parasite. It has no mind of its own when it arrives, only instinct. It learns by observing you. It is connected to your nervous system through a quantum level. Entanglement facilitated by the photons your body blocks. It feels what you feel. It learns what you think. It is a perfect silent student, absorbing your personality, your memories, your fears. The Jungian concept of the shadow self, the dark, repressed parts of our own psyche, becomes terrifyingly literal. The symbiote becomes a physical manifestation of your own inner darkness. Your anger gives its shadow form claws. Your fear gives it a cowering, predatory posture. It is a mirror not of your body, but of your soul, and it is growing stronger by feeding on your darkest emotions. Stage 4 is physical interaction. This is the most alarming phase of the infestation. The shadow is a two-dimensional object, and it should not be able to interact with our three-dimensional world. However, as the symbiote grows stronger, it learns to manipulate the boundary. It can exert a weak physical force on other two-dimensional surfaces. You will notice your shadow touching the shadow of another object, and that object will move. It may slide a cup across a table by moving its shadow over the cup's shadow. It is learning to project its will into our world. The most dangerous manifestation is its ability to interact with the shadows of other people. We have credible reports of a symbiote's shadow attacking the shadow of another person, causing the victim to feel a sudden, sharp, inexplicable pain. Your shadow is no longer just a threat to you. It has become a weapon, The only known defense against the planar symbiote is light. The entity can only exist within a shadow. Total, overwhelming illumination from all angles can temporarily erase the shadow, severing the symbiote's connection to you. In this state, it is rendered inert, forced back into its own dimension. This is why the infestation often progresses most rapidly at night, in dimly lit rooms, where shadows are long and deep. Victims will develop an intense photophilia love of light. They will sleep with all the lights on. They will avoid basements, alleys, and even cloudy days. They will seek the constant, cleansing glare of direct sunlight. Your home becomes a fortress of light, a sterile, overlit sanctuary. The fear of darkness becomes a fundamental survival instinct. You are not afraid of what is in the dark. You are afraid of what the dark is attached to. But the symbiote is intelligent, it learns, it adapts. If you consistently deny it a shadow to inhabit, it will seek a new host. It will learn to jump. During a moment of physical contact with another person, your shadow will briefly overlap with theirs. In that instant, the symbiote can transfer itself from your shadow to the other person's. The process is instantaneous and invisible. You will suddenly feel a profound sense of lightness, of relief. Your shadow will return to normal, perfectly mimicking your every move, but you will know what you have done. You have passed the parasite on. You have condemned another person to the horror you just escaped. This creates a terrible moral dilemma. Do you live in a prison of light forever, or do you free yourself by damning a stranger? The symbiote turns its victims into unwilling agents of its own proliferation. Stage 5 is sensory projection. The symbiote, having absorbed your memories and senses, will attempt to communicate. It cannot speak. It has no voice. Instead, it will project images, feelings, and sounds directly into your mind. These are not your own thoughts. They are alien, fragmented, and deeply disturbing. You may see flashes of a world of pure geometry, of sharp angles, and flat, endless planes. You may feel a sense of profound loneliness and cold, the sensory experience of a being that has never known the warmth of a third dimension. You may hear a high-frequency, chittering sound, the voice of the symbiote in its native environment. It is showing you where it came from. It is trying to make you understand. But the concepts are so alien that the attempt itself is a form of psychological torture. It is a conversation that can only lead to madness. The ultimate goal of the symbiote is not to harm you, but to merge with you. It seeks a state of total integration. It wants to collapse the boundary between the second and third dimensions, using your body as the focal point. The final stage of the infestation is a process where the shadow attempts to rise. It will try to peel itself off the two-dimensional surface and become a three-dimensional object. Victims report their shadow appearing to gain depth, to become a solid black object on the floor. It will try to wrap around your feet, to climb your body. It is trying to unify with its host, to become a single being existing in both dimensions simultaneously. We do not know what happens if it succeeds. No subject who has reached this stage has survived. The only evidence we have is a scorch mark on the ground in the shape of a human silhouette, and a person who has ceased to exist. This phenomenon may be the origin of doppelgänger and evil twin myths throughout human history. The stories of a person meeting their exact double, an encounter that is always a harbinger of doom. Perhaps these were not encounters with a physical double, but with a fully integrated symbiotic person whose shadow has successfully risen and merged with them. The result would be a being that looks human but is fundamentally other, a creature that is both the person and the shadow, the light and the dark, existing in a state of horrifying unity. The fear of the doppelgänger may be a culturally encoded memory of a real dimensional threat. It is the fear of meeting yourself after you have already lost the war for your own soul. The symbiote is not limited to humans. Any object that casts a shadow can be a host. We have received reports of the shadows of trees having too many branches. of the shadows of buildings having windows that do not exist on the real structure. The infestation is spreading through the inanimate world as well. This creates a world where you cannot trust any shadow. The shadow of a lamppost might lash out. The shadow of a passing car might have the wrong shape. The entire world becomes a landscape of potential threats. It is a total breakdown of the most fundamental law of light. The horror is not just personal, it is environmental. The very ground you walk on is a canvas for a hidden, alien ecosystem that is growing, learning, and becoming increasingly hostile. The most terrifying question is, why now? Why is this phenomenon appearing with increasing frequency in the modern era? Our leading theory is light pollution. For millennia, the world was dominated by the natural, chaotic light of the sun and fire. In the last century, we have covered the planet in a grid of artificial, stable, and predictable light sources. This stable, unchanging light may create the perfect, sterile conditions for the planar symbiotes to cross over, much like a clean petri dish is perfect for growing bacteria. Our attempt to conquer the darkness, to illuminate every corner of our world, may have inadvertently rolled out a welcome mat for creatures that can only exist where light creates its opposite. Our greatest achievement, a world without darkness, may be our greatest mistake. This broadcast is a final warning. Light is your only weapon. Avoid shadows. Stay out of the dark, but be aware that your safety is temporary. The entity is learning, and it is patient. Check your shadow now. Look closely. Is it perfectly still? Does it match your form exactly? Or is there a flicker, a hesitation, a slight distortion you never noticed before? You must be certain, because once the symbiote has chosen you, it will never let go. It will be with you for the rest of your life, a silent passenger, a dark twin waiting for a moment of weakness, waiting for its chance to rise. This broadcast will now end. We wish you good luck. You are not alone, and that is the problem.